In the grand theater of human experience, there exists a sacred intersection where the precision of focus converges with the fluidity of flow, birthing something extraordinary, a state where magic doesn't merely happen, it becomes inevitable, like a master conductor orchestrating a symphony. When our attention aligns with our deepest essence, we step into a realm where the ordinary transforms into the sublime, and the impossible becomes our natural expression. Picture, if you will, a master archer standing before their target, bow drawn, breath steady. In that moment before release, there exists a profound stillness, not the absence of movement, but the presence of perfect alignment. This is the essence of focused attention, not a rigid concentration that strains and struggles, but a gentle yet unwavering direction of consciousness that cuts through the noise of existence like a blade through silk. The magnetism of true focus operates on principles far deeper than mere mental discipline. It is, in its purest form, a return to our natural state of being, a remembering rather than a learning. When we speak of focus meeting flow, we speak of that sacred moment when the river of consciousness finds its true course, no longer fighting against the banks of distraction but moving with the effortless power of water finding its level. As Leonardo da Vinci observed, while human judgment may err, true art requires a mind that is always focused. Yet this focus he speaks of is not the white-knuckled grip of desperation, but the relaxed alertness of a cat watching a bird, completely present, utterly absorbed, yet paradoxically at ease. In this state, attention becomes not a tool we wield, but a force that wields us, guiding our actions with a precision that transcends conscious planning. The neuroscience of focused attention reveals a fascinating truth. When we achieve deep concentration, our brains enter a state of transient hypofrontality, where the prefrontal cortex, the seat of our inner critic and self-doubt, temporarily downregulates its activity. This neurological shift creates space for what ancient traditions have long recognized: the emergence of our authentic creative power, unencumbered by the limiting beliefs that typically constrain our potential. Flow, that elusive state where time bends and effort becomes effortless, represents the culmination of human potential in action. It is the state where the dancer becomes the dance, where the writer becomes the words, where the athlete becomes pure movement. In these moments, we transcend the ordinary boundaries of self and merge with the activity itself, creating a unified field of consciousness and action. Dr. Csikszentmihalyi, the pioneering researcher who first mapped this territory, described flow as the kind of feeling after which one nostalgically says, "That was fun," or "That was enjoyable." Yet this description, while accurate, barely scratches the surface of flow's transformative power. Flow is not merely enjoyable, it is revelatory. It shows us who we truly are when all pretense falls away, when all effort becomes effortless, when all struggle dissolves into grace. The 8 characteristics of flow create a constellation of conditions that, when aligned, open doorways to extraordinary performance and profound fulfillment. Clear goals provide the compass, immediate feedback offers the course corrections, and the perfect balance of challenge and skill creates the dynamic tension necessary for growth. Yet beneath these practical elements lies something far more mysterious: the dissolution of the ego mind that typically narrates our experience, replaced by a direct knowing that requires no explanation. In the flow state, time becomes fluid, stretching and contracting according to the rhythm of our engagement rather than the tyranny of the clock. Hours pass like minutes, yet each moment contains an eternity of richness and detail. This temporal distortion is not an escape from reality, but an entry into a deeper reality, one where we operate from our essential nature rather than our conditioned responses. The neurochemistry of flow reveals why this state feels so profoundly satisfying. The brain releases a cocktail of performance-enhancing chemicals: dopamine for focus and reward, norepinephrine for attention and arousal, endorphins for pleasure and pain relief, and anandamide for lateral thinking and bliss. This natural pharmacy creates an optimal state for both performance and well-being, suggesting that flow is not a luxury but a necessity for human flourishing. When focus meets flow, something alchemical occurs, a transformation that transcends the sum of its parts. This intersection creates what we might call a coherent field, where all aspects of our being, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, align in service of a single intention. In this state, we become conduits for forces far greater than our individual will. channels through which the universe expresses its creative impulse. The magic that emerges from this intersection is not supernatural but supernatural. It represents the full expression of our natural capabilities when freed from the limitations of fragmented attention and conflicted intention, like a laser beam that focuses scattered light into a coherent force capable of cutting through steel. The marriage of focus and flow concentrates our scattered energies into a unified power capable of manifesting extraordinary results. This coherent state creates what quantum physicists might recognize as a field effect, a zone of influence that extends beyond our immediate actions to affect the very fabric of our reality. When we operate from this place of alignment, synchronicities multiply, opportunities appear, and what we need seems to flow toward us with minimal effort. This is not wishful thinking, but the natural consequence of operating in harmony with the deeper patterns that govern existence. The ancient traditions understood this principle intimately. The Taoist concept of wu-wei effortless action describes precisely this state where our actions arise spontaneously from our deepest wisdom rather than from forced effort. The Hindu tradition speaks of dharma-righteous action that aligns with cosmic order as the path to both fulfillment and liberation. These teachings point to the same truth. When we align with our essential nature and act from that place of authenticity, we tap into a power that is both personal and transpersonal. Creating the conditions for this magical intersection requires what we might call conscious architecture, the deliberate design of our inner and outer environments to support the emergence of focused flow. This begins with the cultivation of what the ancient Greeks called eudaimonia, life lived in accordance with our highest potential and deepest values. The foundation of this architecture rests on clarity of intention, not the surface-level goals that our ego mind constructs, but the soul-deep purposes that call to us from the depths of our being. These intentions act as magnetic fields, drawing our attention and energy into coherent patterns that naturally give rise to flow states. When our actions align with our deepest values and purposes, resistance dissolves and effort becomes effortless. The second pillar of this architecture is the cultivation of present moment awareness. Flow cannot exist in the past or future, is always and only a present moment phenomenon. This requires developing what Buddhist traditions call mindfulness, not as a technique but as a way of being that is naturally attentive to the unfolding moment. This presence creates the spaciousness necessary for flow to emerge, like clearing a channel for water to find its natural course. The third element involves what we might call optimal challenge calibration, the art of finding that sweet spot, where our skills are stretched but not overwhelmed, where we are engaged but not anxious. This requires deep self-knowledge and the courage to step outside our comfort zones while remaining within our zone of competence. It is the difference between a musician attempting a piece slightly beyond their current ability which creates growth and flow, and attempting something so far beyond their skill that it creates only frustration and failure. Environmental design plays a crucial role in this architecture. Our physical spaces, our relationships, our daily rhythms, all of these either support or hinder our ability to access focused flow states, creating what Charles Eisenstein calls sacred activism, environments and practices that honor both our individual development and our collective well-being becomes essential for sustaining these states over time. At the deepest level, the intersection of focus and flow opens us to what quantum physics describes as the field of infinite possibility, the underlying matrix from which all manifestation emerges. When our consciousness becomes coherent and our actions align with our deepest intentions, we begin to interact with reality at the quantum level, where thoughts and possibilities exist in superposition until collapsed into form through observation and intention. This is not metaphysical speculation but increasingly supported by scientific research. Studies in quantum biology reveal that biological systems, including the human brain, operate according to quantum principles. The phenomenon of quantum coherence, where particles maintain their wave-like properties and can exist in multiple states simultaneously, appears to play a role in consciousness itself. When we achieve the coherent state of focused flow, we may literally be accessing quantum-level processes that allow for non-linear manifestation and seemingly magical synchronicities. The implications of this understanding are profound. It suggests that the magic we experience when focus meets flow is not separate from the natural order but represents the natural order operating at its highest level of coherence. We are not manipulating reality from the outside, but participating in its creation from the inside. As conscious agents within the quantum field of possibility, that perspective transforms our understanding of manifestation from a mechanical process of cause and effect to an organic process of resonance and alignment. When we achieve the coherent state of focused flow, we begin to vibrate at frequencies that naturally attract experiences, opportunities, and resources that match our intentions. We become tuning forks, resonating with the frequencies of our deepest desires and calling them into manifestation through the quality of our being rather than the force of our doing. Cultivating the ability to consistently access this magical intersection requires what we might call sacred attention, a quality of awareness that honors both the practical and the mystical dimensions of focused flow. This practice begins with the recognition that attention is not merely a cognitive function, but a spiritual faculty, our primary tool for participating consciously in the creation of our reality. The first aspect of this practice involves what the Sufis call presence of heart, a quality of attention that engages not just the mind but the entire being. This means bringing our emotional intelligence, our intuitive wisdom, and our somatic awareness into alignment with our mental focus. When all aspects of our being are engaged in the same direction, we create the coherent field necessary for flow to emerge. The second dimension involves developing what we might call dynamic stillness, the ability to remain centered and present even in the midst of intense activity. This is the stillness of the eye of the hurricane, the calm center around which all movement organizes itself. Cultivating this quality allows us to maintain our connection to flow, even when external circumstances become challenging or chaotic. The third element requires what the Zen tradition calls beginner's mind, an attitude of openness and curiosity that prevents our past experiences from limiting our present possibilities. Flow thrives on novelty and fresh perspective, and maintaining this quality of openness ensures that we remain available to the unexpected insights and innovations that emerge when focus meets flow. Regular practice of contemplative meditation, prayer, artistic expression, or communion with nature creates the neural pathways and energetic patterns that support the emergence of focused flow states. These practices are not separate from our real work but are the foundation that makes all our work more effective and fulfilling. When we consistently operate from the intersection of focus and flow, we create what systems theorists call a coherence field, a zone of influence that extends far beyond our individual actions to affect everyone and everything in our environment. This is not a mystical claim, but a practical reality that can be observed in families, teams, organizations, and communities where one or more individuals consistently operate from this coherent state. The neuroscience of mirror neurons reveals that we are constantly influencing and being influenced by the emotional and energetic states of those around us. When we embody the coherent state of focused flow, we literally entrain others into similar states through the phenomenon of resonance. This creates a positive feedback loop where our own coherence supports the coherence of others, which in turn supports our own deepening into flow. This ripple effect extends beyond human relationships to our interaction with the natural world itself. Indigenous traditions have long recognized that human consciousness and natural systems are intimately interconnected, and that our state of being directly affects the health and harmony of our environment. When we operate from focused flow, we contribute to what Rupert Sheldrake calls the morphic field, the invisible patterns of organization that shape the behavior of natural systems. The implications for leadership, creativity, and social change are profound. When we learn to consistently access the magical intersection of focus and flow, we become agents of transformation, not through force or manipulation, but through the quality of our presence and the coherence of our being. We become what Gandhi called the change we wish to see in the world, creating transformation through embodiment rather than effort. As we conclude this exploration of where focus meets flow and magic begins, we return to the fundamental truth that this intersection is not a destination but a dance, an ongoing practice of alignment and attunement that deepens throughout our lives. Like a master musician who never stops practicing scales, we never stop refining our ability to access and sustain these states of coherent consciousness. The magic that emerges from this Practice is not separate from the ordinary moments of our lives but transforms those ordinary moments into expressions of the extraordinary. When we learn to bring focused flow to washing dishes, having conversations, solving problems, and pursuing our dreams, every aspect of our existence becomes a canvas for the expression of our highest potential. This is perhaps the greatest magic of all, the recognition that we are not separate from the creative force of the universe but are expressions of it, and that when we align with our deepest nature and express it through focused action, we participate consciously in the ongoing creation of reality itself. In this recognition, every moment becomes an opportunity for magic. Every action becomes a prayer, and every breath becomes a celebration of the infinite creativity that flows through us when focus meets flow and magic begins. The invitation, then, is not to seek extraordinary states as an escape from ordinary life, but to discover the extraordinary that lies hidden within the ordinary, waiting to be revealed through the alchemy of attention and the grace of flow. For in the end, the greatest magic is not in transcending our humanity, but in fully embodying it, in becoming so completely ourselves that we become transparent to the divine creativity that seeks to express itself through us in every moment of our lives.